you'd like. Okay. Now, as
Do you want some altos up there, or?
altos here,
We need some altos, yeah.
All right.
we need some altos somewhere.
I can't sing worth anything.
I understand that. So one of the things we're going to do, guys, today is kind of, well, partially what we haven't covered before, but partially, you know, what are some of the exceptions to rules? And what are some of the things that you should really do that maybe haven't been said enough? And the first thing we can talk about is starting a song. I haven't really heard much said about that this year. So we're going to start this devotion. What does that start with, a down or up? Down. So I will model and then I want you to describe. Okay, let's sing. That kind of forces people to take a breath to come in together. Now, how do you do it when you have an up? While the chord is sounding, you do the down, and then everybody comes up. If you wait till the chord stops and you do the down for that dead beat, people are going to come in right there.
But yes, he was doing reverse, all for the first three phrases.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I was like, when he just said that he gave his own rest, and then, but then we didn't come in until we were on the up again.
So it was our fault, not his.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Woo.
Now, if I'd been standing up, I think you could have seen it in the big second. So let's try, look at 50 on the top. Let's see what we can do on that. La, 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 of what's for people to take a breath on. And then people start together and it works pretty well. Now let's...
Everyone make noises to make sure they're looking at you while they're doing this? Like some kind of or
Well, we sound the chord. La, 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 la. And you like to do the first half of that. Now, bass, be sure you do your little drum. La, I like this illustration of their scale pattern much better than what we're doing with two separate scales where it's showing overlapping. Now, that direct relationship between the major and minor, all you do is start 2 notes lower. But you notice you have one change in minor. That B flat is no longer B flat.
Could you translate that for those of us who don't understand?
Don't
Could
worry.
you translate that for me?
Okay. Singing the minor, if you sang the major, fa, sol, la, mi, fa, mi, la, sol, fa, la, sol, fa. Minor would be la, mi, fa, sol, la. You change that B
Thank you.
and raise it to half step.
Yeah, so I forgot to put the national sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wrote the word.
You want to sing it through us with us singing with you, the
Okay,
minor
let's-
scale? and he
I'll
can
sing
point
it first and then we can echo it.
Yeah.
La, mi,
Fa, sol, la, fa, sol, la.
always. Always. This is one of the rules to me, there's not an exception.
Yes.
And that would be in that second phrase there.
Yeah.
In the tenor.
So,
Now, we piano players are confused because there was a, you did the minor scale, you went up one way and down another or something like that?
no,
Well, no, you don't need to do that. That's how Hugh McGraw
Yeah.
demonstrated it.
But we
It's not
don't
the
do
way people
Okay.
sing it.
Yeah. Once he started singing the song, he sang it the right way. When he illustrated the scale, he did.
Yeah.
So if you listen to that la 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 sol fa sol fa la sol fa mi. You hear me changing the note, but I'm not saying fee. You don't change the syllable. You just change the note. Always. Now, when I've said always, of course,
Thanks a lot.
there's caveats.
Yeah.
Partially because of where you're singing and what the local tradition
Yeah.
is. But the base tradition for Sacred Harp is you always sing that formula minor.
And you don't need to say fee.
Right. he
Yeah.
said.
Even in his compositions where he has put that in there just to make sure that you sing the sixth.
And I did that first following just Judy's lead, but the area I was starting to write in at the time when I was living upstate New York, people picked up the book and they sang what was on the book. And if you didn't put it in, they wouldn't raise it. So I
Even if you told them to.
Yeah, exactly. I started putting it in just to make sure that people that just sang from the book knew that that was the custom and the tradition. Where do you hear it actually not done? And it's primarily in one particular community, not necessarily geographic community, where you have a predominance of either new book singers or Christian harmony singers. Because that's the way their teachers teach it. So if you have people that sing both, the tendency is to carry from one over into the other. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
But in the Sacred Harp community, we want to try to always do that. And it's something, if you're not used to doing it, it takes a little practice. But it really changes the sound.
Is there, I mean, like, I have trouble, like, even just singing the scale and raising the sixth. Are there, like, any recordings of them that I can listen to? Because I can go down to it, but I have trouble going up to it. I mean, it's really easy, especially if it's just coming one note. I can sing one half step down, so I can raise the sixth coming down from the soul a lot easier than I can going up to it.
209 is the easiest one to me to do.
And right there in the treble part.
Yeah.
And the original, it actually had a sharp there.
The original did. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all gonna sing the treble? Is that hard to hear?
Oh, I can hear it, I just don't, if I'm singing it by myself, it's, sometimes I'm just not sure I'm getting it.
Right.
It means it's just like from singing, you know, fa to sol.
Yeah.
It's a whole step, yeah.
But once you get the sound in your ear, if you don't hear it, it sounds wrong.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I'm bringing it up, because we haven't covered it a whole lot. We did it 5 or 6 years ago, I think, something like that. We haven't done it in a while, so.
Can we do that phrase again, because I actually heard 2 tones. and I
Okay.
don't know which is correct.
No, not fa, not a whole.
There were mixtures.
And it happens again at the end of the next phrase.
So, you're saying this is an exception?
No,
No, this is rule.
it's a rule with no exceptions, he said.
Yeah,
Right, but it's a whole step.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're singing in Dorian scales.
Right, yes, right, yeah, I understand that. I
But
just
it's
thought you
still,
said I sang it.
in the key signature, it's a half step.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, I just thought you were saying I was singing the whole
If
step.
you're singing
shouldn't have-
in minor,
I
it's kind of
misunderstood. Thank you.
If you need kind of a crutch to figure out what to raise and that kind of thing. In one of my old things, I had a little table. If you're in sharps in your key signature, you add a sharp.
Yeah.
That's the note you raise.
You know, that's really hard for people who were groomed in
Yep,
the,
yep.
in the natural harmonic and melodic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
manner.
yeah. If you're in flats, you take away the last flat. So if you're used to reading key signatures, that's the quick way to figure it out.
If you're used to singing
Triple.
notes,
Can you-
think Dorian.
Has sort of a, course, I guess, sing Wondrous Love without, but it's okay,
Thank you.
159.
Yeah, that's
Because this is one that we,
driving
everybody
Patty
always
stuff's
does.
done wrong.
So when you hear it not done, it sounds good.
Nobody sings that.
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
And the new church hymnals that put that tune in almost invariably don't know that you're supposed to change the note.
Yeah.
And half the people end up singing it wrong.
Yeah.
How many songs with a bassist have? 6.
Yeah,
Well, there's several.
300. And the altos have it too?
300, let's look that up.
Every part has it. So, yeah, so this is a no sharps or flats, so which note are we talking about?
Yeah.
You add the sharp.
One in the bass, I believe, has the most of that, is Farewell Out from 260.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of it.
David's lamentation has a few for the bass.
And I'll sing his blessings as his name is 542.
Yeah.
Terry.
It really affects the way these things sound if you don't listen. It doesn't sound good.
Examples where there's a lot.
And, you know, if nobody said anything to you about it before, well, you know, that happens.
Yeah.
And you're, I just see
We just want you to get this in your ear
Yeah.
where it becomes natural.
There's, I feel like there's always gonna be some people who aren't raising it too,
Well,
so
that's
you're always
true.
gonna have a little clash.
There will be, Judy Hoffman calls it the pleasant buzz. But, you know, because part of the people are so ingrained as, that's what it says, that's what I'm going to sing. Not knowing that there's tradition behind doing it.
Yeah, but that's what it says to us.
Yeah.
It says, yeah.
Yeah, to us, if I'm singing minor, I see that, and I see a 6, I automatically do it. And that's the sound you want to get into your ear.
So do you have any suggestions of how to get that in one's ear?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
And like put it on
He was
the-
saying the treble line of.
Well, I'm
Well, that's
talking about not in the heat of battle, I was sitting at.
Do you have a keyboard piano
Yes.
played that way and sing along with it?
Play D to D with no sharps or flats, and that'll give you the right scale.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a Dorian.
It's a Dorian.
It's a Dorian minor scale. The B becomes a B natural instead of
That's
a B
one
flat.
I remember.
And you don't have to remember which one's sharp or flat, it's just there.
Now, is this, when you talk about when we learned the piano, is this the natural or the melodic minor?
Neither.
Oh.
That's the problem.
We're singing Dorian.
This
Yeah.
is Dorian.
That's like playing D to D on a piano with no sharps or flats.
Okay, we'll write that down for sure.
And that's probably the easiest way to hear it. And if you have a piano, just plunk from D to D.
Don't invite me, I'm so sorry. I'm completely ignorant of music theory, period.
Not to worry. This is one area where you don't really have to know music theory. We just want you to get the sound in your ear. Once you get the sound in your ear, you'll be fine.
I just recorded a friend doing it and then listened to that over and over. If you have like a smartphone, usually they have a recording
Yeah.
thing. I just got my friend to sing it a few times over and then I listened to it over and over again.
You
He
mean
sung
the scale?
just
Or a
going up,
song?
just going up to the raised 6 and back down, and a scale, yeah. And I just listened to it over and over until it
Then
stuck
you
in
can
my
give me
head.
a recording that I can listen to over and over.
Sure.
You want to try that?
Let's sing Calvary.
Yeah. And it's unusual for bass and altos to have to counter that.
Yeah.
They have to try harder.
The tenor's first time you had that.
Isn't that felt good, didn't it?
Sure, I
Yeah.
just didn't know you did it on all of them. So you just do this all the time?
It's something you tend to do naturally.
Yeah.
Possibly, if so, I haven't noticed it. But I only do it on a few songs that I learned from whoever was next. to
Right.
me. Yeah.
Right.
So I think you mean when you say you tend to do it naturally, it's like after you've been singing, practicing it for a while.
Well,
and then hearing it
if
for
you
the first
heard traditional singers do this for a long time, it's very
Yeah.
easy to pick it up.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
And so this is the raised 6 that we're talking about?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Then the
What do you
strings.
do with 86 and treble in Babylon's Fallen 117?
I do it anyway.
Do it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I brought that up with him the other day, and I said, many people would find it difficult, especially
Babylon's
in,
Fallen, you gotta jump that tritone.
Yeah.
well, that doesn't bother me, but yeah, in Poland, what it seems to be as though you're sort of moving to the relative major, and then,
Yeah.
which has a fa that doesn't do that. But if you just do it all the time, it's going to sound perfectly good.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the tenor part in Poland,
Yeah.
What was the number?
86.
Thank you.
No, it's the A. No.
Yeah, last measure in the first line.
Oh, wait.
In the tenor line.
Yeah. So let's sing the tenor line. And we'll sing it all the way through because you got a good one in the bottom line too.
Yeah. Fasola,
Now, that's, the hardest one is there, is on the bottom line, because it's the devil's interval.
Yeah.
Somebody sing it correctly.
Now, what else should you do at the end of that line?
Ignore the sharp.
Ignore
Or the sharp, but don't say C.
Don't say C and don't sing the B sharp. It's just natural.
Oh, that would be really nice. Are you serious?
And,
Can you do
yeah.
that?
Yes, absolutely.
What he's saying is that this is a diatonic, a 7-note world,
Yeah.
and that those other things are alien.
Yeah. That somebody that was writing, and Swan may have been familiar with the sound, but I'm not sure.
He doesn't have a single accident in any of his tunes.
Okay, so I'm glad you have researched that, because I have not, but it seems alien to me.
Yeah.
So some editor at some point said, oh, we have to change that so we have a major scale, major chord next to the last note.
So it's an error.
No, it's not
An error.
error.
It's just an editorial addition.
You just say, bless his heart.
Yeah, use the southernism, bless his heart.
Yes.
Yeah. Could you sing that? Someone sing that again so I can hear it?
Yeah.
With the solo.
La, sol, la, sol, la. That's a sound you're perfectly used to.
Yeah.
But you're la, sol, la, sol, la. Just doesn't sound sick.
C, la, or something.
Yeah.
Sounds
La,
hard.
sol, la, sol, la.
So, Warren, when you said it's a 7-note world, does that mean all of this is in Dorian?
No,
Yes.
well, it means all the
Yes.
minor songs.
All the minor songs.
Right.
Okay. Okay, they are.
And you will find one or two major songs that have some
Yeah,
accidentals that should probably be ignored.
yeah, so,
And again, it's primarily where you will hear them is
yeah,
where they sing a lot of Little Book
yeah.
or a lot of Christian harmony.
But even, like, if you go to a typical singing, like in Winston County or something like that, and they sing 454, they will not sing that flat.
Right.
You will not hear that flat.
West Georgia, we never heard that flat.
Yeah.
I have to say that other places where you might not hear the traditional sound is where places where the singing has come back through a different.
Yeah.
So in Atlanta, I don't think we do this as much in our local singings. I don't think
So
we're
that's
singing
one-
the
That's
traditional.
one of the reasons we're talking about this.
That's why, yeah,
I
they can
know.
bring it back there, yeah.
Right, because I'm just like, some of this is just making my head hurt.
That sounds stupid.
But it'll make it feel a lot better later.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'll take your word for it, doctor.
So if I want to lead if I want to call 350 in Philadelphia versus Birmingham, should I do it different? Should I sing the C sharp in Philadelphia?
Well, we sing it in Philadelphia, so.
I know you do, because
Are you saying just like on that song specifically, or
that song specifically.
which one?
Sophie,
The
so.
two.
Oh, 350.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, we sing the fee, I guess.
yeah.
Personally, I would.
Okay, because I'm in Philadelphia, it's going to be kind of strange if everybody
Yeah,
else
you'll
can
get
do it.
that.
Or you could just ask. It's nice because in Philly we have a group of people who are interested in that kind of thing. So you could just, you know, we like to talk about that kind of stuff. So if you want to do it one way or the other.
Yeah, in the South, you
Yeah.
would
This
not.
is an
Well-
English composition that's been totally bastardized. And it was a fuguing tune.
Okay, guys, listen to this.
This is an English composition that was totally bastardized. It went through a New Work Gospel version, and then and the fugue was taken out. So you could say it is already alien to our tradition
Yeah.
anyway. So I don't know what to do with it. I don't sing it.
I don't know. And you're gonna have places where you'll have people doing it both ways.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily bad.
You said it's a 7-note tradition. Does that mean you ignore, you're gonna ignore this sharp, you ignore sharps in general?
Yeah.
Just anything that's not 7-note? Because at first you said just in minor
No.
scales, and now.
Well, that's where we started. But you'll find a few in major that you ignore.
Yeah.
But I think,
Like Mir. No,
Mir.
Mir
It's
doesn't
not
even
written,
have
doesn't
one,
have
does
written
it?
in there.
But, how about 36 in the bottom?
Hope I'm not destroying your world.
Yeah.
I'm not intending to.
but I think,
Oh.
I'm wondering if she,
Oh,
if
no, that doesn't have
there's
it either,
something
but
about
people
phrase
sometimes
7.
add it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But coronation,
Yeah.
63, okay,
Look at 63.
yeah,
Can someone sound these things for me, since the words you're saying don't translate in my brain?
okay.
so I'm wondering about the
So,
phrase 7
what-
shape, if that's, I mean, if 7-note is meaning like two different things to different people.
We're not talking shapes.
I know,
We're talking
so,
7 notes.
right, okay.
In
Does
a
the
7-note
phrase
world.
that we're talking about here is where it goes, so, fi, so, is what's written. But what he's saying, do not sharp that fa. So, fa, so.
Crown him Lord of all.
Right.
And that's what I have certainly heard in almost 40 years in the South.
Yeah.
We may
More
just be doing that
than
without.
with the thing, huh?
I may just be doing that because everybody else is doing it and not realizing that I'm doing it.
You are using the sharp or not?
No, probably, maybe not in that, because that what you
So,
just sang sounds.
one of the things I'm doing with this discussion is saying, let's open our ears
Yeah.
and listen, and maybe we can discover if we're doing some things that are alien to what we should be doing, perhaps. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
Listen,
let me
listen
see
to
if,
people around you.
Yeah.
but like if I go back to Missoula, for example, it's appropriate for me to, when I lead something, to say, let's ignore all of the accidentals. And what you're saying is it's really the case in minor, and okay, proper to do it in major. Or because your language is saying that the majors are maybe, and I think what you're actually meaning is, let's really ignore all of them.
Ignore them, ignore them.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clear that's what you're saying.
And even, I love that altered note in Pittsburgh, but I still don't sing it.
Yeah.
So, if you were debating it, a half-step option, would a hack be just to ask yourself, okay, is this the way they would sing it in a modern hymnal in church? And if so, that's wrong?
In some ways, you're absolutely right.
Okay, I'll use that.
Yeah.
That's one way to analyze the situation, figure it out. The modern hymnal editors tend to be very picky. Well, this is harmonic minor, we have to change this note. But the traditional singers don't do that.
Yeah, I'd also say that, like we're talking about Stephen Jenks and some of these New Englanders that knew about sharps and that they had seen sharps in other books. But there's, in Wetmore and some of these people, I'm not sure they knew how to use them or what they really sounded like, and they would just pepper their music with sharps, just for looks.
You can tell when Daniel Reed got that memo because his earliest printed stuff doesn't have it, and then all of a sudden he's adding it into all the minor songs.
Yeah, and the same with Jenks. His early books had no accents. He learned that they were somehow
So
fashionable.
it's fashion.
Well, are you saying that we naturally would hear that? We naturally would hear that, and that's why we want to do it. But it's written, given nature, it would want to lead us to the.
If you're used to this style of singing.
Right,
If you're used to strictly diatonic singing from church hymnals, you'd probably hear the other direction. Does that kind of make sense? Played symphonies and things like that.
Whereas I have to say, I've been sitting next to someone who's been singing since the 70s.
Yeah.
Who's a very well-respected singer, who sings all the accidentals, because I hear him do it. So that's what I'm saying, it's just like where we are, and we sing out in the country, and for whatever reason, I'm just not hearing it as much.
I don't know anything about it.
I mentioned the other day.
Never know.
And we heard at length last night about Jeff and Shelby Shepherd. And they sang together at singings for years and years and years. And he always sang the raised sixth. And certainly didn't sing accidental.
That's where I was.
She
Always did.
she did not raise the sixth.
And
Totally
sang,
did
and
not.
sang the accidentals.
Because she was from a gospel music background.
Gotcha.
Little book or Christian
Yeah.
memory, and that forms what you hear.
Okay.
I've got Jeff in my left ear on like 3 songs, and that's why I've only been on those 3 songs. I didn't know that's a universal thing.
Is that me?
So I don't have a good enough ear to notice this, but what does it tend to sound like when people, when like half of people are singing the bass sixth and half are end, or like half are singing the accidental and half are end? Does it just end up sounding cacophonous, or?
It's like, that's what he said, that Judy
I can't
Howe
quite
calls
tell.
it the pleasant buzz
Yeah,
between those two.
I was thinking of Vermont, that there are some accidentals.
Oh, yeah, and there were, used to be even more.
There used to be more, and we took some out, but that's 180. But there's still some good accidentals to ignore.
Yeah, exactly.
In the tenor and alto.
You have a question over there, Dan?
Okay,
Well, it has to do with sound, and I have no idea, mostly I have no idea what this is all about, but eventually I'll get it. 26 in the tenor. Does that have that? 26 in the tenor.
okay, so this is minor.
Yeah.
It's in flats. What's the last flat? In the key signature. D flat. Do you have any D flats in your part? That's the note you have to change.
Those of us who need hacks don't really, we can't follow you there. So,
Okay.
look at so when there are 4 little Ds on the left,
Yeah.
we look at the last one and.
The last one is the one you don't, that's the one you raise.
Okay.
Yeah, but there aren't any of this.
Exactly. So it's in the key signature, but you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
When you talk about a D, that's gonna vary.
With the D line, on
The
the D
last
line.
flat, if you're in flats, the last flat's the one you raise.
Just for where it's written on the page.
If you're in sharps, you take away the last one.
Oh,
26, we're at 26.
what's the Mary?
Yeah, so you just, you know.
Now, O.A. Paris,
There's no D. That's what you-
in 1935, surely he knew what a flat meant.
Oh, yes, and he was primarily gospel music background.
And that's the one flat I know of in the book. But everywhere I've sung that I could tell, the alto's flat that note.
So it should be fine.
I grew up hearing it not flatted.
And I still hear it not flat.
Yeah.
What song are we
Most of
talking
the
about
places in
now?
Alabama and Georgia.
But I think above the Mason-Dixon line, mostly where I
That's
sing.
because people are not
Well,
involved,
that's a long, you just wrote it long.
not as involved.
Which pair of songs is it?
Yes, it is.
Mine has been blank.
What?
It's phenomenal.
With the one with the flat?
Yeah.
454.
454, yeah, that's better.
Is this one?
So it's
Oh, there is one in the
on
treble.
26
One
is
is-
in the treble.
Yes, and so that,
Yeah, so it's
Do it.
Yeah.
Shoot, that's gonna be hard.
and
Sing
then.
it out.
You want to try Vermont, because that does have, it has the sharps that are written, and it also has some 6 degrees to raise.
Yeah, no, it's good, let's do that.
180.
First thing is, what do you ignore? Ignore all the D sharps. So ignore all the D
So
sharps.
you're saying you're not gonna say C?
Exactly.
But add all the C sharps.
Right. So you're gonna make all the C sharp, but
It's still F sharp.
yeah.
Well,
Now, and
Yeah, that's good.
case, even if you change
It means that
the C to the C sharp, you don't sing B, you still say fa.
and we sing that.
And
Because
so the,
just blowing my mind, because that is not how I work.
I feel so much better. I feel so much better now.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do it. I don't, because it's sounds, but I don't know if I can make it sound that sharp, so that's, I don't know if I can make it, I don't know.
Not this fast. But this sharp.
All of those C's
let's start with the tenor line. Where it comes 180.
and these D's.
This is one we could really spend half this kind of thing. So. I have a couple of things I want to talk
All the C sharp.
about. So tenor. Remember C sharps. And that really didn't sound too bad.
No, a comment about that is that in this piece, all but that last one and that second to last measure, they were all on odd little eighth notes.
Yeah.
And it would be very easy if you're not really listening for it, and the way that people sing with proper accent, you hardly hear. And it's to tell whether it's sharp or not. It's very difficult in the heat of a singing.
So a lot of what we're talking about feeds off each other.
Yeah.
This is one reason that accent is so important.
Yeah.
Why we talk about accents.
But that last one sticks out. And
Yeah.
you might think, oh, well, they just do it there and they don't do it anywhere else. But in fact,
Yeah.
it's just part of the world, you know.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
So when we go back to our many separate communities and we're singing this without sharping or anything like that, and everybody around us is still sharping, how's that gonna go down? Like, how's that supposed to work?
Lead balloon, I think.
I would be stubborn and just do it.
And our one voice is saying soul and everybody, like on the alto part, everybody else is saying C, and Charlene looks at me and she's like, what are you doing? What am I supposed to do?
Well, you're fortunate enough to say, well, that's how Buford, and that's how Lloyd, and that's how, you know, they did it in this same area.
Yeah.
But you know, Richard is a huge friend of Charlene's, and he says, we always raise them in the country, so.
I'm like right here underneath.
Yeah. I know
You got
some Sam
You know,
Madison's not raising six
I don't
dollars in
remember
this
Charlene.
meeting, so I don't know.
over here.
Question, sir.
Hello. Right, now, how do you explain to someone who doesn't read music, doesn't know where the G is, or the D, or the E, or which note, how do you tell which note should be played?
Well, in this case, we're talking primarily in minor,
Yeah,
second thought.
right. Okay. That's good. But yeah, I can't see it in the music.
So the second triangle.
I won't be able to read it while we're going through a piece.
The step is of the same distance going up or down.
Yeah.
In my first book, I went through and circled them all.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Once you get the sound in your ear, it's not that hard. And you'd be surprised in areas where you think they never raise it or always very lower, that kind of thing. You'll hear some of the others once you start doing it.
To your question, I know in Missoula, I'll mention accent, and the person that runs the group didn't learn accent.
Yeah.
And basically says, I'm the leader, I get to do it the way I want. And then when I'm the leader, I get to ask for accent. And after the very first time, there was never a conflict. We get along just fine with that. You know, but to begin with, you know, I learned that, you know, and that didn't go because she learned from Hugh McGraw, and how she interpreted stuff was without accent. And I'm gonna say she learned that from him.
She just missed that day.
You sure sang with accent. So.
No, I understand. That's why I said she interpreted that word.
Yeah.
But what we've agreed is we can do it any way that the leader asks. And that's turned out to be not a problem, which is really nice. I'm very grateful.
I'm gonna try that at home, stand up and say, I learned this at camp. And I'd like to hear you guys sing it so I can hear it from all 4 parts at once, because I surely would.
What, Vermont? Yeah.
No.
Oh, accent. You should play that recording for,
Oh, but
yes, of Payne Denson. because he's accenting beautifully.
That means nothing to me. I know, I know.
Yeah.
Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, good.
He had that, a recording of Payne Denson singing by himself, the American
Oh,
Star.
American Star, yeah.
And with a.
Talking about accent?
Yes.
Yeah. So go ahead and do that real quick, and then we'll move on to another
Yeah.
subject.
And this is 346.
346.
Oh, thank you.
And you'll also hear some raised sixth. While we're at it.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Singing the tenor line. So we're having a lesson from Payne Denson.
Laying the lesson from Payne Denson. 2, 3, 4, 6. Sorry, it's not the best computer system.
Thank you.
We need, yeah, I mean, I can hear.
Wait, he's singing the
That's as
words.
loud as it gets on this computer. I don't have the speaker.
Some of those six end up kind of in the crack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you can't tell. the
But
raise.
also he has a little, nice little pauses in there.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The syncopation.
Which is, the accent is what we really wanted to hear on that.
Yes. Top, the top.
There's, I have tons more of this some other time today if you want to listen to it.
But thanks for saying that some of those were in the crack, because I was like, it wasn't quite where I was expecting it to be, but it also wasn't where I'm used to hearing it.
But again, it's on those offbeat notes, so.
Yeah.
No, it's good.
Sometimes hard to tell.
So it's not as critical if it's not on one of the accented beats. You still want to try, of course.
So this has a ton of secondary, pardon me, raised sixth that
Yeah,
probably in the total number in the tenor line is
it's quite a few.
many.
Yeah.
And so what we need to do is get beyond it so that we don't have to notice them and count them
Right.
anymore. It's just part of
You just hear it.
our concept of minor.
Yeah. So when we sing minor, yeah, probably what, maybe half the minor don't even have a sixth.
Right. And especially not so many in the alto and bass.
Right. But, question?
Well, it's off topic, I mean, it's a rhythmic question.
Okay, well, there's one behind you and then yours.
I was just gonna say that Judy Hoff had put out that CD with, that she recorded all 4 parts herself and had a little, and they're all raised six songs.
Yeah, yeah.
And she had a little chart even that showed in your part which ones of those songs, I mean, there's
Yeah.
30 or 40 songs on it. She stopped sending them around, so I messaged her, and she sold us some for a practice group. So if you messaged her, she would probably send you one. She said, "Oh, I'm surprised anybody would still want them." It's invaluable.
All right.
Well, a question about rhythm.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube video of Hugh McGraw leading 188 Spring.
Yeah.
And he sings all the triplets. Instead of triplets, he sings 2/16 and an eighth.
You could hear it in that.
Fasola, so.
That was kind of common, I think.
Yeah.
You hear that?
This one is very seldom sung.
Right.
So most people don't hear.
But is there a standard way to deal with that, or is it just?
I would almost think it more as a shuffle than.
But, yeah, I've heard people talk about a sacred harp triplet.
Yeah.
And they're talking about what he's
Okay.
doing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's.
Particularly when they're faster, you're gonna get more of that than when it's slower.
I think in something like China or 30, or
31.
31
Yeah.
on top, you can sing those slow triplets.
Yeah. The faster ones, you're gonna get some kind of effect like that.
The 327.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell what you're doing in that, because it tends to be sung fast. The youthful heart, oh, rock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about a couple of things that are exceptions to general. Royal Band, 360.
Yeah, I sang that last night.
You also say that in
And I stopped you twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you at the accent class, or were you with Jesse? Because we sang it in the accent class too, as a really good example. So I'm surprised that we didn't do accent well enough. is what I'm
Okay,
saying.
why don't you do, let's sing 162 and lead it again.
Oh, okay. Okay.
163.
Are they listening for some particular thing, or you just want them to sing it?
Well, I want to see what you're doing with it personally. Because I have a general observation about the way it's sometimes done.
This has to go fast. It is la la so that we're hearing 2 beats and we're not hearing 6 notes.
Why don't you do it just a little bit slower, do the same accent.
Okay, let's try that.
So watch your accent.
I'm sorry, can I?
Yes.
My hearing sucks. We're looking in particular for hitting the notes or hitting the accent?
The accent.
Accent's what we're worried about right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then last night, I wasn't hearing enough accent.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped people to get back into this.
I'm sorry, guys.
So we're slower.
We just sang that at 2 different speeds with good accent on both of them. My general comment on this one is it's sometimes slightly slower than other 6/8. Not as slow as we did that time, so it was kind of in the middle of what you did first and what we did second is what I'm accustomed to hearing. So this is one that doesn't necessarily follow the mold, so you certainly have freedom to vary your tempo a little bit, but you've got to keep that accent.
And I think it's in some ways easier to do accent at a fast, I
It
think
is.
it's an Irish jig.
Yeah, yeah.
And so sing it like an Irish jig and you
It doesn't seem so fast, it just, its speed is
Yeah.
not so,
Yeah.
how do I explain it? I don't feel like I'm going so fast, I feel like I'm going slower even when I'm going fast.
Yes,
And that
because
makes it
you're
easier to
accenting
sing.
right, and you're not trying to go bam, 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 bam. Yeah, right.
What's an example of one that does lose the accent with tempo change?
The what now?
What's an example of one that does lose the accent with tempo change?
Anything.
Well, one that
Singing
you
too
wrote.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
64.
Well, maybe you could say that, say, if you're singing, say, 32 on the top, and you're beating in 4, it tends to lose its accent,
It does, it does.
as opposed to rebeating in 2.
20, let's see if that's true. What's the number?
32 top.
32.
Why don't you sit up and lead it in 4? And we'll see how, and, you know, maybe we'll try to do the accent right.
Yeah.
But it tends to fall away when
Yeah.
you're leading in 4.
Let's just do the
The accent stayed pretty good that time.
Yeah.
But I could not hear
Let's
them.
do it in 2
Yeah.
at the same speed.
All right.
Okay, you lead it. I'm not gonna do that. My brain doesn't. I'm sorry, you just proved my point about leading in 4.
Yeah.
You can save the accent if you're hitting those points like you said
Yeah.
you shouldn't do, but you really can't do it if you're wobbling. I mean, I'm a drummer, right?
You couldn't hear the accent on that one?
You could,
Not as well. Not as
I
well.
could hear it much better, but I was hearing, the first time I hear what I hear when, like in Sand Mountain, when they are doing 4. It, no, lo, bum, ba, lo, lo, and you, even at Hoboken, you hear that, they kind of like there's a kind of a pulse on
Yes.
quarter note, even in the middle of
Right.
a half note. So,
So where should the accents be?
yeah.
Primary, on secondary, on
Yeah.
tertiary.
Yeah. And I was hearing that much more clearly
I was too.
with the
Oh,
two.
now, with it too.
Yes.
Now, maybe it's something that really should be the choice of the leader. If the leader feels it, then the class will feel it.
Well, my main concern, whichever way you do it, we need the accent.
Yeah.
How about that?
Because a lot of times when
See, he
when
was
you do
standing out there
4,
listening. What happened? Could you hear a difference in
Yeah.
accent?
Yeah, the 2 one has the stronger.
No,
Stronger,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Wow, and I heard that.
Well, I mean, you hear a strong accent,
you're
but the accent is on every quarter
It's,
note.
yeah, you're
And so-
smoothing the whole thing out. It's just bam, 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 bam.
It's right here anyway. Okay, how many people heard it louder on the 2?
Louder.
Sorry, stronger, clearly, more clearly, but I
Yes.
did hear it on the 4 more than I usually do when people are reading a 4.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it.
Because we were thinking about it. All right,
Yeah.
4?
Okay, and
Yeah,
the
raise
reason
your
for
hand.
this is something I was told a while back, and someone said, you lose the accent on the 4s. And I thought, you put the accent where you put the accent, whether you're beating it on whatever. If I want to hit that on 4, then I do. It's not like you lose it, it's just maybe you don't pay enough attention.
Or maybe you put it on every note.
Yeah.
But he's,
That's-
or
that's-
you
that's-
what I
don't.
said.
But you on purpose, you know.
If-
On
What
purpose.
it does in 4 is allow the leader to actually feel the 4. And if that's So that's what I was saying, if the leader's feeling it, maybe the doctor feeling it.
I guess my point is that it was presented to me almost as an absolute, that the four loses the accent. And it seems to me that you can, let's put it that way, you can get it.
You have to be more intentional to get it, but to me, 4 does tend to lose the accent.
Yeah.
The same speed, you can get a good effect into.
I suspect I can, and that's probably not of usage, and that's, so I'm excited about
What
it.
you get to, right?
At last night's thing, from the very beginning, we heard people consciously trying to use the accent more than they have lately, because we haven't really focused on that. What I heard, was particularly after the jig, what I heard was the sense of motion from one to the next increased throughout the evening. And that's what I heard the difference between the 4 and the 2. Yeah, I heard the 2 more clearly, but I felt that circle of the meter was much more active, where it was clear, what you were doing was clear and we were paying attention.
Yes.
But to me it was static in terms of the motion, yeah.
Perhaps that there are 2 different ways of feeling accent.
That's exactly right. And it was really cool feeling the motion grow last night throughout the evening. That was really neat.
But I think for me, the accent helps the less experienced singer sing a little bit faster. Like Jesse's piece last night, Eternal Praise, was nicely accented and made it much easier to follow along and get, not to get lost in all the complexity.
And also our voices don't get harsh.
Yes.
They get harsh when we do and we do our voices don't get harsh and you don't lose your voice. So there's multiple benefits.
Now, let's look at gospel cool.
That's number 34.
34. This is another one that has some wide tipple variances. And the famous gentleman from Florida, T.H. Ross.
From Haines City. Yeah.
I've been down that way too.
Yeah.
Now, he had the custom of, on these fermatas, Rocky, whichever you want to call them, until you turn blue in the face.
Especially the second one.
Yeah.
Well, my notes say slow, slow, and then give 6 counts to that last one. Oh.
That may not be enough.
Yeah, it's only 3 times.
This is one you can do more than one way. I'm just saying, this is one of the old traditions that's been kind of preserved, and you're even familiar with it from your area.
Of singing this in a very slow tune.
Now, he never beat 4 on it, but he's always
Very slow.
very slow.
Even at that speed, we can pay attention to accent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what he did, and that's where it really So even with those long fermatas,
Yeah.
when you were ready to get that breath, then you can redo your accent on the next part.
When every single person has run out of breath. Then
Another one that's sometimes done differently, they might be used in morning.
Morning.
163.
Okay, what are we looking for here?
This is one that's sometimes done a good bit slower,
Yeah,
although still in 2.
yeah.
And what note do you need to be looking for on this one?
What note?
What note do you change?
C sharp.
C's, yes, C's become C sharps. Second thought.
Change mood of time somewhere in them, and one is slowish and one is fastish.
Right.
And I guess it would be exaggerating that difference, like 455. That I often hear, for example, I want a sober mind. In other words, sung really as a slow 3/2.
Yeah.
And it is 3/4. And there's already contrast.
Yeah.
If you do a proper 3/4 and then a proper lively 4/4,
Right.
it works fine. It works fine, and you don't have to do super slow and super fast. And whether in 183, whether or not you change tempo, and it sounds perfectly good not changing tempo at all. But even if you are going to do it, you don't have to do super slow and super fast.
Right.
And I just wonder where that impetus to make it just a bizarre kind of contrast.
Those of us who leave things slow all the time don't.
Well, but I mean, you know, if you then see and that comes sorrow away, and nobody's going to sing that song. Soar away. Yeah.
Majesty is another one where we sometimes change speed.
Yes. Yeah.
And that one is never quite as abrupt
Right.
as the Grinch sometimes comes out.
Yeah. You know, and it is, you could say, well, that's the slippery slope, that, you know, people falling
I
down.
think that's exactly it. I think it's just, you know, like they've heard it, and then they just make it a little bit more exaggerated, and next time it's just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think-
Yeah, but I think sometimes we need to pull back and think, you know, what is this really, you know, and is there enough contrast?
Yeah.
You don't have to have too much.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be.
Well, most of those,
Yeah, don't overdo
Don't
those.
make the contrast,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
and most of the tunes they have written,
yeah.
Right.
Another one is 448,
which one?
448.
Yeah.
Because again, that is, the second part of that is 3/4. So if you go there, then, that's a perfectly good 6/4, and sir, well, think of Amazing Grace, don't think of, and am I born, that tempo, but think of.
Yeah.
I don't hear
If
people
you're-
do it
if
as much
you're
here.
going from-
But the others you mentioned, I definitely
Yeah.
hear that, like
If
extreme.
you look at the James book Rudiments, and the relative time speeds that those equate out to, 3/4 and 6/4 are very similar speeds.
Right. Yeah. But, I mean, anyway, I think because of some of the, like, Awake My Soul, and,
Yeah.
you know, as David said, it literally, they didn't even really recognize 3/4. They sang it all as 3/2.
Yeah.
You know, so we're hearing that version of it,
Yeah.
but not kind of the normal way
Yeah.
of doing it. Because we've been affected by the record and the film.
Right.
So, you know.
If you keep the pendulum going for
Yeah.
beats, because at the 6/4 you only have 2 beats, and then 3/4 you've got 3 beats.
Yeah.
So that would make 3 beats be the 3/4
Yeah.
slightly
I'm
slower.
thinking of 6/4 as a second per beat. So that would, so one swing of the pendulum is a second, and that would be correct for 3/2 as well as 6/4. But here you get to there, and then you've got to shorten your pendulum to 3/4. So thy passive clay, 1, 2, serve with, and so it is a definite shift in gears.
Yeah.
So a little bit faster. or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. Most of those work where you can just keep the same pulse.
Yeah.
All of them don't. Vain
Yeah.
World is another one that you have to
Yeah,
do a shift.
and you, the one you did
Last night.
last night,
Pennick.
yeah, and that has a 3/2, and then
Right.
changing to 6/8.
Yeah.
So Primrose Hill, 43.
I was just thinking about that one.
It goes from 6/8 to 3/4 to 6/8.
Mhm.
And when I leave it, I just keep the pulse the same. In other words, it's dotted quarter note becomes a quarter note, and
That
then
is-
back to a
That
dotted
is
quarter note.
very good and very legitimate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because 6/8 is faster than 6/4.
Right.
And then 1, 2, I'll bid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so 417
Yeah.
does pretty much the same thing.
Weekly Pilgrim, yes. Except you, well, no, 3/4, yeah, 3/4 and 2/4.
Yeah.
That's good.
And Buell tells the story about Reese coming up with the sound for hearing the cows in the pasture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weep and I mourn.
But I think it's and what's unusual in the melody is, and I move slowly
Yeah, I move slowly on.
And that note came from the cow.
Right.
It's lovely there.
Yeah.
And the smaller singings, the custom used to be you always did 2 songs per leader.
Yeah.
And that changed primarily to make sure that everybody get a chance to lead. But it was common to pair 417 and 43.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when you do paired lessons, you try to find things that sometimes they complement each other.
And sometimes with even 2 songs with the same text.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But usually either both major or both minor.
Right. You would always apologize
Yeah.
I'm going to mix my lesson.
I'm gonna
sorry.
change the music.
If you went from major to minor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Those of you who were in the painting class yesterday, in the transcription of the interview, or if you want to hear it play for you, he goes on quite at length about linking songs in 2 or 3 song lessons, and the way that he does it, which is really interesting to hear.
And so, if you have a smaller singing, I would encourage you to do the 2 song lessons, because it brings back another element that we've kind of lost a little bit.
Yeah, and we often have 3 song
Yeah.
lessons in Mississippi when we have smaller.
Smaller crowds, yeah.
We often use them too, in West Florida, Southeast Alabama, but I've never heard that, thematic area.
It seems more likely that people would just say, oh, one fast one, one slow one. That's what I've heard.
So there's lots of different ways to compare them.
It's a skill that translates even when you're not having 2 song lessons as well, because it gets you thinking about what's happened before you.
So
how the
before you
songs
do
are
something
composed.
really slow, do you want to do something really
Rather
slow?
than, I'm just going to do my favorite song right now.
And sometimes you get 3 or 4 leaders in a row who will do a slow 3/4. You know, the Hill of Zion and Sacred Throne and My Shepherd Guides.
Yeah.
And you hear this, and you sort of wish somebody would pep something up.
And that's the
Time to sing
arranging,
Morgan.
Yeah.
and that's the arranging committee, they poke that one in. Well, let's move this on, we know we
Well,
all.
the arranging committee has a definite talent. If you know your crowd, you can kind of avoid some of that kind of thing. And you will know, if you do a lot of arranging, who tends to do slow songs, who tends to do fast. You can kind of pace it. Any other questions? How are we doing on time?
10:13,
So what are we supposed to go to?
10:15.
The grazers will start showing up now.
Yeah, you can run a few couple minutes over.
When the Dutch door opens.
Do what?
Another exception.
Another exception, let's see what I've got. We talked the other day was everybody at my little thing yesterday?
No, I missed it.
Okay. Novakovsky is one that you can change.
Yeah.
That's
But again,
great.
you don't want to do it extreme.
Right. And I explained this, so I really wrote this originally with the time change in, the speed change.
481.
481. And when I changed my mind by the time I turned it in to the committee. And I turned it in as 2-2. And I did not do the change to 4-4. So my preference was that it slow all the way through. But the first camp we did in Poland, I was explaining kind of history behind it, and the Irish singer said, well, let's try it. So we did the slow fast, and it works. If you want to do it that way, I'm not going to lose sleep.
You sang it one that way somewhere else in Europe.
Yeah. We call it Camildo style. Camildo from the camp in Poland. Oh, we probably should change it to
People probably
Camildo.
know what you're talking about.
So are you saying that you now prefer this, or?
I still like it slow all the way through.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it with a change, I'm not going to sleep over it. Sounds good.
And you give us permission to do 313 bottom as a pair on this one. Maybe we go back to the top.
Well, that would be 2 very slow songs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Similarity. Yeah, for some reason I wrote down 2-2 for the first part, 4-4 for the second part.
That's what we were just talking about as an
Oh,
alternative.
there we go. 472. And all the rest are changing.
Right, but it's 2-2.
Right, yeah.
Right, but yeah,
I changed my mind when I went to the prayer that it should be slow all the way through.
got it, that's what I missed.
But if you want to do the speed change,
The publishers changed your original 2-2 to 4-4, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
so it shouldn't be as fast as it's.
They should have done that to Rainbow too.
Exactly.
What pace do you like when you're talking slow burr? What do you need? Like, what pace would you need?
2 over, John?
Well, let's just sing it.
Here's
It's
the
such a fun one.
So, in other words, more than a second per beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see.
And my pendulum is only 1 meter long, so in other words, you have to subdivide, you have to get.
I think the way I described it was that very first singing
Yeah,
in Birmingham, where we recorded all these things.
yeah,
The bigger the class you have, the slower you go.
yeah.
That's really not traditional, and I know that's not traditional. And so just follow the old rudiments of what they say, that 2-2 equals, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's okay, I just can't hear you.
I'm happy with.
But it's nice if you're doing something very slow, if you have enough voices that
Yeah.
you can stagger it.
You have to
Staggered
have,
breathing, yeah.
Yeah.
you have to have a bigger crowd to do it, that's all.
One thing I used to notice, and I don't hear it as much now, but, where the singers would be a good full class and say, salvation, 'tis pleasure to our ears, to hold right through those things.
Yeah, the breath,
Maybe breathe somewhere else. Yeah,
the breath was sometimes in the middle of a word.
yeah, yeah.
In the rise of David's lamentation for the bass, there's no rest. And if you carry that on through, I mean, I like carrying it on through because there is no rest.
There's several songs where I find myself doing what you just did,
Yeah.
but most of the people around me aren't doing it, and I don't know if it's just like a old
It's
choir
actually,
singer
it's
thing or
actually
what.
traditional.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Dan.